Lee, there's nothing on your page.
Just for show. Hello and welcome to the Aligned Podcast. This is episode 9, I believe. And today I'm welcomed by Tom Waller. Hi, Tom. How's things?
I'm good, mate. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, mate. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Perfectionism. I just want to talk about something first, though. Really interesting. This incident happened the other day, and I did a post on it, and it ruffled a few feathers. But I think people are listening to this to improve and better themselves, and I really want people to improve and better themselves. I don't know whether you
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I got off work early the other day, and I was like, yes, I finished. I get away an hour early, leave the team, and get home to Sarah. And halfway home, there's a crash, and there's this car. I live in the countryside in these twisty lanes, and there's a car that's proper flipped. It's facing the opposite way to which it was driving and upturned in a ditch. And there's two cars pulled up beside it, and I pull up, and it's dark, it's raining, and there's two guys having a conversation next to the car. And I was like, oh, are you guys okay? You okay? And I looked at them both, and they both looked very unscathed. So I was like, is there anyone in the car? And they were like, yeah, I think so. I was like, are you actually kidding me? There's this car that has flipped in a ditch, upside down, it's pissing with rain, the car's still running, engine's still running, and they just stood there doing nothing.
That's unbelievable.
It's mad, dude. So, long story short, I had to climb through the back, the boot, push the seats down, and cut this girl's seatbelt because she was trapped in by her seatbelt, upturned. It wasn't serious, fortunately, but the engine was running. You have no idea where there was an oil spill. It turns out the airbags hadn't gone off, so if she'd stayed there and they'd accidentally gone off, they would have seriously hurt her.
Yeah.
And obviously she was distressed, and she was a young girl. It's her first accident. But I just thought, how can you? And I said it as, how can you as a man not jump into that situation? And people come back at me going, it's a human thing. Men and women should do it. I'm fine. Like, I get it. Like, my wife used to be a police officer. My sister's an A&E nurse. Like, yes, they would do exactly what I did. But I'm talking to the men because there were two men on the scene there. I'm like, why didn't you jump in? Why didn't you do something about it?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention it because I hope everybody who listens to this is of the same ilk as us. But I want you to really use these shows to pull yourselves up, to become a better person, and share these shows with other people so we can really create individuals that would be better human beings and change the world. I just had that on my mind. I just needed to get it off my chest.
Yeah, well, those two gentlemen are not listeners of the Aligned Podcast. I can tell you that right now.
No, they are not.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing to me, mate. I just can't really fathom that. I just can't understand it. But well done for you for jumping in, mate.
Thanks, dude. I felt like a freaking hero that night.
Walking around at home with your chest pumped out.
Sarah, she was like, you're late. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm a hero. Let me take my shirt off and everything. No, you're late.
I've been saving lives.
Make your dinner's cold. Anyway, we're going to talk about perfectionism, and maybe they were caught in analysis paralysis, which is one of the things that we might discuss with perfectionism.
Sure
they were maybe overanalyzing the scene. But perfectionism is something that I know you have struggled with.
I have, indeed, yeah.
And I was thinking about this because we did mention we might talk about this. Like, it may have been something I struggled with, but I don't necessarily think I do or I see it that much. So it'd be interesting to have a conversation from two different standpoints.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And if anybody ever boasts about being a perfectionist, they're not a perfectionist.
Yeah, true.
That's what I would say, because it is nothing to brag about. It is a crippling disease. It's a problem. Being a perfectionist is, in my eyes, in no way, shape or form, a positive thing. You can want to be good and strive to be great, but being a perfectionist will do nothing but hold you back.
I think the person who brags about being a perfectionist is between the person who's not and the person who is.
Yeah. Because
I think they're just making excuses for not doing their work, whereas a perfectionist will just keep working, not even talk about it.
Yeah.
Until they're ready to.
Yeah.
If they ever are ready.
Yeah. So I've been like this with with video, with design, with being creative. And I know we mentioned it in the previous episode, but when you're creative, it's easy to be very critical of things, and you are creating something and you take whatever subject matter you have, like if we're doing a video, for example, and I shoot with you, and then I get to sit with that content and I go through it hundreds of times to edit. And I've been in a position where I've like spent so long on a video and it's just not been necessary for me to spend that much time on it. And I've not wanted to put it out or not wanted to send it over because I'm like, oh, it could be better. It could be better. It could be better. If I never sent something out that I thought could be better, I would have never have completed a project because I could always make it better.
And it's hard because your work is helping other people. And if you don't get it out, you never get the chance to fulfill what you want to do in helping other people. I am probably at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, whereas I will put out some garbage sometimes. To my detriment, like that may be to my detriment.
Yeah. And when we first started working together, it would drive me mad with you. You were like, yeah, man, just get it out. I was like, fucking what? Just get it out? What are you talking about? Just get it out. It needs to be right. It needs to be right. How many times have I said that to you?
Oh, dude, I've sent some stuff out. I've
it needs to be right.
Mistakes everywhere. Like, I've sent, like, sign up for this thing today, and then the link doesn't work, and it like Sarah's similar to you. It just drives her insane. I know it drives you nuts.
And there's a happy medium.
I think it has to be a happy medium. Well, actually, no. I'm going to say that not within a person.
Right.
I think within a business.
Yes.
I think a happy medium within a business.
Yes.
Because your true talent and your skill lies in your perfectionism, and I think my talents lie in my lack of perfectionism.
Yeah.
And when you think about starting a business, a lot of people hire their friend. They hire the person they like. Mm-hmm. When the first thing you need to hire is the complete opposite of you to complement your skill.
You're right.
So I think the happy medium comes in working with someone who is that opposite, and then you can create some great stuff, because one will go, right, we need to release it. The other will go, it needs to be perfect, but then they realise it's perfect enough to get out to the market.
Yeah. You've still got an objective to accomplish.
Yes.
To reach. And working with you has definitely helped me deal with my perfectionism. Honestly, it really has, because it was crippling me for a long time. And even, it's probably one of the reasons I didn't get on camera for so long, was because I just wanted everything to be perfect.
Well, dude, seeing the difference in you is incredible. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode. I hope you chuck in a little snippet on the YouTube of your original videos. But the difference is incredible. Like, you are in front of a camera right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And you have been in front of a camera consistently since we started doing this. But I know how big an issue that is for you.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a bit of self-doubt in there, but is that because you want it to be perfect?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was... Actually, one of the reasons that I'm on camera more these days is I have to give a shout out to Catherine, my EFT therapist, who I mentioned early on. We did some work not that long ago. I mean, we've worked on this issue for years, both me and her, and we've put in so much time into dealing with this and the whole camera thing. I don't want to stick on it too long, but we recently did one, and it was about me when I was at school as a teenager, and we talked about shame, and we talked about dealing with the things that I had to deal with at school and the front that I had to put on to survive the school that I was at. And since then, I've just seen things totally different. Yeah. But yes, a lot of it was me wanting everything to be perfect, and I'm sharing stuff now online that it takes me 10 minutes to make some of it, and I'm like, get it out there.
So what are the pros of perfectionism?
If you can be a perfectionist for a short amount of time and get really good at what it is you're doing, because the reason I can make videos the way I do is because of the perfectionism, probably. So early on, I would have put in so much time and master these cameras and the editing software, and that was all trying to be perfect.
I think that's true. It's similar to that overnight success type thing, isn't it? Like, your perfectionism has led you to be not just competent, but a master at what you do, which means you take that huge amount of time invested, now becomes a shorter amount of time.
Yeah.
You're still trying to be perfect in a shorter window, but only because you persisted with the perfection.
Yeah, well, I don't know where I heard this, but done is better than perfect.
Yes.
And I've sat with that thought for a long time, and it's if you really sit and think about what it's saying, it's so true, because perfect will never be released. You will never get to perfect. It will never be perfect. And like I said earlier, you can always make it better.
Yeah.
You could always fuck about with a video, editing a video and add little bits or grade it slightly more or change this and change that. You could release 100 different versions of the same video and none of them would be perfect, but they'd all be slightly different, but they'd all be good enough. So done and released and out there and providing value is better than perfect and sat on your hard drive doing fuck all.
Yeah, and that's the same with anything that you do.
Yeah.
Like any business, any venture, any relationship, whatever it is, done is better than perfect. I think that the thing that has to be considered is that I think the time needs to be put into knowing where you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you know where you're going, then you start just pushing out.
Yeah.
So I think you can spend time trying to really think about where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Not too long, but that's where the time can be spent. But as soon as you think, right, that's where I'm going, then you need to start releasing stuff or providing that service or giving things away or investing time in certain things.
Yeah. It's like this course that I'm creating for chiropractors. I've been thinking about it for years.
Yeah.
And a long time. But I'll tell you one thing, it's had that much thought put into it. When it does come out, it won't be perfect, but it's going to be fucking good.
Yes.
And that's because of the time that I've put into building up to it.
And it will be good from I suppose it won't be good, it'll be great from the service user's point of view.
Yes.
Like from your point of view, it's not perfect.
No.
But the content is exactly what the user needs.
Yes.
They don't give a shit whether it's perfect or not. They're like, that's exactly what I need. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But and it's taken time to get to that, to me, to discover exactly what they need. So the time put in is useful. But another useful thing, if you are struggling with perfectionism, is the good old 80-20 rule. If you're 80% happy with it, get it out. That's what I live by now. Done is better than perfect. And if I'm 80% happy,
80-20 is everywhere, isn't it? Like
everywhere.
They say 80%, 20% of the work that you do provides 80% of your income.
Yeah.
80% of the work you do provides 20% of your income. So 80% of this time wasted is ridiculous. So if you could take, like we've said, you've taken that perfectionism and really microed it down into a much shorter space of time, you're now changing that percentage of 80-20. So instead of the norm being only 20% of the work you do creating 80% of the income, you're increasing that up. So maybe 50% of the work you're doing is producing 80 to 100% of your income. So it's important that you do try and get things out. But I suppose the flip side of it is, because I'm not a perfectionist, I have done so much shit over the years that just doesn't make sense. Like I have gone from this, I'm like, I used to say Sarah and I's dynamic was, I am like a dog that's chasing leaves, and then she says which leaf I should chase. Like I'm literally like this. Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it's like nothing's sticking. So I had to learn the other side of it a little bit and stick with something and try and make it better to really create the success. And that's, I think, where the balance is key.
Yeah, and this goes back to that's in the last episode, something that I wanted to mention in the last episode, but I didn't actually say it, was about focus and choosing one thing to go after if you are looking to be self-employed. And I guess it kind of ties into perfectionism as well, but being focused is very important, because when you are someone who's like type A, I suppose, type A in inverted commas, but and is driven and has loads of ideas, it's very easy to go after them all. And it's very difficult to choose one.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll be successful. Like Ed Milet says it, he says that the lie that is also true, he talks about the lie that is also true in the sense that high net worth, ultra successful people have multiple streams of income, but they didn't build their wealth in multiple streams of income. They built one stream of income, and then there are the businesses. So it's very popular in the world now to have a business, then be a coach, and I see myself doing it, then do like property, then do all this stuff, and I see like a lot of newer chiropractors I coach with, like, oh Tom, I want to do the property like you, and I want to do the coaching like you. I'm like, get your business sorted. Like we didn't go into anything else until our business went over 500,000 a year. Like, and I think once you've gone over that, then you can start to think about other things. But like you have to get focused on one. And like I think we spoke about in the previous episode, get it to a point where your systems are rerunning. You mentioned like I had that £10,000 month, and then I'm like, yes, and then it dipped.
Yeah.
So it's that consistency of singular focus, which perfectionism helps you with, to really make that business a success, or that development that you're trying to do a success.
Yeah. So just trying to think of some ways that people can deal with perfectionism. And I was trying to think of how I've dealt with perfectionism. And I think it comes back to your belief in what you're doing and your self-worth. And because perfectionism is like a shield, it's like a front where you're not putting yourself out there, and it stops you from doing it because you want everything to be perfect. And it's kind of like an excuse. I think I was using it as an excuse when I was doing it, saying, oh, I want everything to be perfect. I want everything to be perfect. And it was more like, I'm shit scared of putting this out there, so I want it to be perfect. So I think it was more that. So what do you think?
You're right. I just thought of it alongside, like, I think it's very much a thing that the world is doing these days, like hiding behind things and being scared to put themselves out there. And one of the things I just wrote down there is mental health and physical health. And we ask people a lot of times when we're interviewing them, because we interview people for a health centre, what does health mean to you? And they always go, I always know which person's going to be the right hire. I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but they'll go, health's really important to me. It's all about my mental health. And when I get my mental health right, I'll start doing something physical. I'm like, you've just got that the wrong way around. You've just got that completely the wrong way around. And I think it's that move first, and then things will take care of themselves. So I think back to the whole idea, like you mentioned in the previous show, what was that Alex Hormozy quote? The entrepreneurship is the ultimate personal development.
Yeah.
Like, if you can personally develop yourself, then that might help you with your perfectionism. So my thought might be physical movement. Move your body first.
Yeah.
That will help your mental health. Get your nutrition right. And now you're building confidence.
Yeah.
And then when you build the confidence, I think that will help you with the perfectionism thing. But I think, and I may be wrong, but I think I've seen that in you probably recently.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about it. Yeah, you're right.
You've committed to physical health, and that helps mental health. And I certainly know it. Like, what was it last year? I had to take a few months off for illness. Like, my mental health was in the shed because I couldn't exercise.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think it's a huge part of the whole thing.
Yeah, it is. And you're right with me, 100%. Like, I've not really thought about it, but they tie in perfectly, and everything's come together. And the more confident you are in yourself by training, and yes, even just looking better and just being happier with the way you look, the more you will take the steps forward. It's all encompassing. This is what I said when I said why I don't understand why people don't do personal development.
Yeah.
Because in like episode 2 or something, and this should have been mentioned in the last episode as well, business, life, personal development, it's all one. And the people listening to this podcast obviously know this, and they want to be better, and they are working towards their best version of themselves. But yes, perfectionism for me was anxiety and a shield and a barrier that was stopping me from doing it. But and it wasn't really just one thing. I worked with Catherine, my therapist. Yeah. I trained. I got my health and my life in order, and started taking control of everything. Nailed my morning routine. Did everything. Got it all down, and then all the other little parts just fall into place as you go. Really, really true. And I do think it's a big thing. And it will ruffle feathers. And I think it should ruffle feathers. Like this confidence thing. Like, oh, can't I just be happy in my body? Like, are you actually happy in your body? Like, sometimes I don't think people are all the time. suffered with. I've been overweight for a long time, and I can tell you, unless they're very different to me, people who are overweight are not fucking happy.
It's true.
I never was,
Like
and I can say that because I've dealt with it.
Sarah's pregnant at the moment. Like, she's fit and healthy. Like, that's her thing.
Yeah.
But her body's changed. She can't control it, and it's like, I'm not who I used to be.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. Like, if I let my like, and I think you when you get to a point where your standard's high, and then your image like drops, your confidence drops.
Yeah. And it's not just that. It is that what you're saying, exactly that. But also, you know that your standards, you're not holding yourself to your word. When you're overweight, you're not holding yourself accountable. You're not holding yourself to your word. You're not doing the things that you know you're supposed to be doing. And had I been still big and overweight and unhappy with the way I was, I wouldn't be able to do this podcast because I wouldn't feel genuine in doing it. But I now train. I'm happy. I've still got work to do, but I probably always will have. Yeah. But it's huge. And that knowing that you're keeping your word to yourself, and I'm in the gym 5 days a week, usually 6, and it does build that confidence. That is how you are confident. That is how you get rid of perfectionism. So I totally agree.
And it's self-integrity, like we've said before, is that glue for success. It's the thing that really binds what you want to do to how you bring it to the world, the confidence to move forward and do it. So I really do believe that taking care of your physical health and taking care of the body, which is the only place you've got to live, is the starting point, is the foundation to everything beyond that. Yeah,
you're right. And I see that now. And as somebody who has been overweight, it's easy to not see that. Like, it's easy to think, oh, I can do it and be overweight. And it's, you actually can't. I truly believe you actually can't. You can't have your mind right if you've not got your body right, if you've not got your nutrition right, if you don't know what you're putting in your body and you're not fueling it right, your confidence is not going to be there. You're just not going to be able to achieve the things that you would be able to achieve if you were physically healthy.
I think to really, because I know there will be some people listening to this and it will be like okay. I think the way to get through that is just to start building some wins.
Yeah.
Start compounding some wins. Like, say to yourself tomorrow, I'm going to go for a walk for 10 minutes and win. And the next day, 10 minutes and win. And then say, okay, it's going to be a 10-minute run, and just keep building those wins, that compounding. Like the compound effect, which we know in business is huge. Take Warren Buffett. No one knew who he was before the age of 60, but because he compounded his wealth over time, eventually became one of the wealthiest people in the world. Like, your fitness doesn't just change overnight. Your confidence doesn't just change overnight, but it has to be consistent compounding over time that really gets you to the state that you should be in.
Yeah. And like we said in the previous episode, was when you hit those goals and achieve those things that you didn't think you could do, it builds on your confidence 100%. Every time. And if people want to get their feathers ruffled with this, they can. But I've been overweight for years, and this is my opinion, and they can't argue with my opinion.
No, they can't, because you're sure in it. Yeah. Because you're confident in it.
Yeah.
And I do think perfectionism is true. Perfectionism is true, I believe, for creatives, for artists. But I do think a barrier of excuse gets built up, and that's what people can lean into and push through. And I think if people want to try and push through perfectionism, is to start, again, build themselves first. If they're creating something that they are scared to release to the market before it's perfect, beta test it. Send it to a couple of people that you know, trust, and like, and get their opinion and feedback first. And I'm sure they'll tell you it's fantastic. And then you have to take their word for it and go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let the market decide. Put it out there. Let the market decide.
Well, thank you for listening today. Another great episode. I say so myself. If you want to check us out on the YouTube, if you're not on the YouTube already, if you're already on the podcasts, make sure you flip between one and the other, because you get a different context, different take on the show. We are trying to grow this to help people become better in themselves and create a better society as a result of it. So please like and share the show, and we will see you on the next episode. Lee, see you next time.
See you next time.